Well, my name's Simon Vors. I run the property here that we're at. It's a 20 hectare property. We are about 15 kilometres from the Victorian border on the Murray River. The property here is a difficult one for growing fruit on because we're actually on a split level, so we probably have a height differential of about 20 metres. Being a split level property means we have quite a variation of soil types, from clay up in the front corner to essentially beach sand down by the river. We have very hot summers and very, very cold winters. With the right amount of water and the right management technique, you can just about grow anything here in the Riverland. Depending on how far we go back, this property was a classic small ownership fruit salad block. We had oranges, we had lemons, apricots, plums, but our decision came early on to actually plant almonds here. Long-term strategy, probably 18 years ago, to put the almonds in. And I suppose we have progressively been changing out of all those other types of fruits into, well, by this time next year, we will be 100% almond property. The change out of the citrus was probably the most traumatic decision that we had to make. There was a huge number of factors that influenced that decision. When you look at the economics in our industry, it can be a case of whether your product will sell or not. And that was a critical element for us in citrus. We made a bold decision. But when you look at the economics of that rationale, sometimes it was a case of just being able to sell your product. At the time, the high-end product, the best of it, the A-class fruit, well, that went exported to the United States and to Japan, and then secondary fruit was sold domestically, and then your third-grade fruit, there was a thriving juice market for citrus juice. Well, that market dried up, so therefore up to 40% suddenly had no home and was being dumped. When your industry is in a bit of a trough like citrus was, back when the decision was made, you either hang in there tough through the tough times, or you make a bold decision and make a change. So when we plant the almonds, you're looking at about year 6 before they become profitable in their own right. Horticulture and almond trees especially being a big permanent planting, 6 years even for us is that's the short timeline. We're looking at a 30-year lifespan for these trees. From a labour point of view, generally throughout the year, I'm able to do the bulk of the work. So maintaining the irrigation, keeping the trees nice and wet, fertilising, orchard hygiene, so keeping the place weed-free. There are times of the year though where I'll get a contractor in to prune the trees, so prune the sides down so we can get the machinery down the rows. And of course at harvest time we use a contract company to harvest the almonds. At about the time of harvest, we have about anywhere between 15 and 20% of the nuts have already fallen onto the ground. Now, in any other industry, you would panic at the sight of your fruit and nuts on the ground, but in the almond industry, when we get to harvest, the first machine that comes in is the shaker. It has a pair of clamps that go around each tree and shakes the nuts off of them. It's quite an amazing sight to see. From there is a machine, a sweeper essentially, that sweeps the nuts from in and around the tree out into the middles of the rows, into essentially a windrow. And then the third and final machine comes through, which is the pickup, essentially digs up the first couple of millimetres of dirt, which in turn picks up all the almonds and puts them through, blows all the dust back out and puts it into a trailer which is carrying on behind. It leaves me with almonds harvested and a nice clean orchard. So once our almonds have been harvested, they then travel a very short distance. The almond huller and sheller, owned by Almond Co, is only about 3 kilometres down the road from us here. From there, those almonds are then transported to the Almond Co factory. We entered into a long time ago a long-term supply agreement with Almond Co, which was the best decision we ever made. And they are responsible for 100% of our almond sales on our behalf. So the business is a cooperative, which means it's owned by the growers, and it just works terrifically. They're a forward-thinking company and are always planning for the ever-increasing volumes of almonds that are being produced here in Australia. So the biggest thing that, from my own personal point of view, I like is that I'm a shareholder in the company. The profit that cooperative makes, and they do make a healthy profit, is either poured back into growing the business or comes to us as a dividend. Annual investments we have, pumping costs with electricity, and then very close behind that is our fertiliser costs. Is a huge component of the money that we spend, and I have to make sure that every piece of nitrogen, every piece of iron, is put in the right spot at the right time to maximise our return. We want to in Australia, and we need to grow our production numbers so that we can get into those export markets of India and China that is where there is a massive demand for almonds.